In this lesson, we're going to discuss selecting and moving objects. If you'd like to follow along, go under the File menu to Open, and in the Working Files folder, go to Chapter number 4, Secrets to Selecting and Moving, and just click Open. How do you select an individual object? Well, you could just hit your V key to go to your selection tool, which is the black arrow at the top of the Tools panel. And now if I just click on an object, I'm selecting it. You could also select an object through the Layers panel. Let me go to my Layers panel and hit the disclosure arrows next to each one of the main layers. And you can see I'm revealing all of the objects in each layer. Now, if I wanted to select one of these images, all I'd have to do is click on the little selection square next to the image name, and it's selecting that particular image. But what if I wanted to select the image within the graphic frame? Well, you can see when I'm hovering over a picture, there is something called a content grabber right in the center of the picture. If I click and drag, I'm actually selecting the picture and moving it around within the graphic frame. The graphic frame is cropping the picture, and I'm not moving that graphic frame. It's just the image that's within the graphic frame. Now, what if I wanted to select an object that was hidden by some other object, or it had some other object in front of it? Well, I could just click on the object. Like, for instance, I clicked on this caption in front of this picture. And if I wanted to select the picture while clicking on that text frame, if I hold down my Command key on a Mac, Control on a PC, I'm clicking right through the text frame to select the picture. If I Command or Control click on that text frame again, I'm actually clicking right through both the text frame and the graphic and selecting the background, which is covered by both the picture and the text frame. Another thing that I could do is, let's say I have an image selected, actually the graphic frame that contains that image. And let's say that I wanted to select the image itself. Well, in the control panel, there's something called Select Content. It kind of looks like a sideways E with an arrow pointing down. If I click on that, I'm selecting the image within the frame instead. The icon above that, if I have an image selected and I wanted to select the graphic frame, I could click on that. It's selecting the container that the image is in. Now, let's say that I selected all of my graphic frames. Well, the way I could do that is click on one of the graphic frames, hold down my Shift key, and add to that selection by clicking again, continue to hold down my Shift key and click again, and then select the last image by holding down my Shift key and clicking one last time. So I have all of the images selected. I can go to my control panel and actually select the content in all of those frames at once. So if I have a bunch of images on a particular page, and I want to get rid of them, all of them, to have empty graphic frames, all I would have to do is select the graphic frames with the images, switch to the content in the control panel, and then just hit my delete key. Let me undo that. Command or Control Z. I'm noticing something else in the Layers panel. Within the Type layer, there's something called a group. There's a listing which is a group. What is a group? Well, why don't I select that group? And you can see that it's this text frame plus 2 lines that are on either side of the text. And I can actually see all of that by hitting the disclosure arrow next to the group listing. You can see it says line, line, and also rock that will move you. And so I know exactly which one is which. Well, the question is, how did I create the group? I selected the individual objects, went under my Object menu to Group, which is now grayed out because I already have a group selected. Let me choose Ungroup. Now, they're individual objects again. To regroup them, I could either go under the Object menu to Group, which is no longer grayed out, or hit Command-G on a Mac, Control-G on a PC. Now they're a group again. Well, is it possible to select an individual object within a group with the Selection tool? Let me deselect everything by clicking off the side of my page. If I click on a group, it selects everything in a group. But if I double-click on one of those objects within the group, it's selecting just that one object. Let's get back to images for just a second. You can see when I hover over an image, even if the graphic frame is not selected, I get that content grabber. And if I click and drag, I'm actually moving the image around within the frame. And if I hold down, I can see the image both inside and outside the frame. Outside the frame, it's ghosted. So it's easy to see the whole image and exactly how it's being cropped. What if I wanted to select both an image within a graphic frame along with its caption? Well, what I could do, go over the top of the content grabber and just click. So I selected the image within the frame. Now, if I hold down my Shift key and click on the caption, I'm selecting both the caption and the image at the same time. And I can move them around either with my arrow keys or by clicking on one of the selected objects and just moving it. And you can see that the image within the frame along with the caption is moving as a unit. Let me undo that. I'm going to hit Command-Z on a Mac, Control-Z on a PC. Now, what if I'm working within a text frame? Let me click off of everything to deselect everything and click on my group at the top and then double-click to get my text frame and double-click again to switch to my type tool. If you double-click with your selection tool on a text frame, it automatically switches to your type tool. But what if I now wanted to get to my selection tool? Well, there is a keyboard shortcut to get to your selection tool. You can hit your V key. But if I'm typing and I hit my V key, it's just going to add a V. Not exactly what I want. Let me delete that. So what I can do instead is hit Escape. The Escape key in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard will also select your selection tool. Another thing I could do, let me get a selection point again. I'm going to double-click with my selection tool to switch to my type tool. If I select some words and I'm getting ready to make some changes and I realize that my entire text frame is in the wrong place, I can hold down my Command key on a Mac, Control key on a PC, and now I've temporarily gained access to my selection tool. If I let go of my Command or Control key, I'm back to my type tool. Now, what about moving objects? Well, I'm going to go to my selection tool, and I could just click on an object and then drag it to move it. Let me undo that. I could also go to Object, Transform, Move, and it's going to open the Move dialog box, which I can specify a horizontal amount, a vertical amount, or a distance and an angle. Even faster, I could just go to my selection tool and double-click, and I get the Move dialog box. Let me hit Cancel. Another way to move an object, a precise amount, is to enter an amount in the X, Y axis fields in the control panel. So there's a lot of ways to select and move objects, and depending on what the situation is, some may be more efficient than others. We're going to continue discussing objects in the next lesson.